Here it is. They requested, how do I organize my office? Specific episode on office organizing with professional organizer and office organizing expert, Lisa Griffith. You want to have your office organized. Why? So you have everything you need at your fingertips and only that, and you're really productive in your work, because that's the whole goal of getting organized, is to aid us and support us in the work that we want to do in the world. And some of that work we do in our office. So this episode is going to help you learn. And what we start with is what not to organize. And then Lisa asks amazing questions that will help you as you listen to this to really dial in on what you need to do in your office. You are going to love this conversation with Lisa. Get your notebook, take notes as we go so that you know exactly what to do when you finish listening. Or better yet, go in your office and work while you listen to the conversation. As always, you can book a consult call with me at simplysquaredaway.com/appointments to have a conversation about what you really need next. What is your next step? How do you get there? Which of my programs would help you the most? And what is stopping you from creating the life, the home, the business that you love being in?
Are you ready to work less, feel more organized and productive, streamline repetitive tasks, and implement systems that allow your coaching business to run smoothly even without you? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Organized Coach Podcast, your go-to source for practical tips and solutions. I'm your host, Tracy Hoth, professional organizer, certified life coach, simplifying expert, and most of all, down-to-earth fellow coach just like you. No matter if you think you're missing the organizing gene, have ADHD, or just love anything organizing, I'm here to help you become an organized coach with a business that works for you. Pull up a seat and let's get started. Okay, Lisa Griffith, welcome to the Organized Coach Podcast.
Yay, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
We were just talking before we pushed record just about how we were reintroduced, because we go way back. Elizabeth Hagen, if you're listening, you're the one that brought us together, so that's fun. She was my very first coach, and
Mine too.
Yeah, I remember sitting on the consult call with her and very specific questions she asked me, and it was like, think about that now when I do consults. She was so relaxed. She definitely had scripted questions, but it made me feel so heard. And it made me really think about my business. And I totally bought, and we made so many memories together and went to events and stuff. And so she was such a big influence on my life. And
I had a similar experience with Elizabeth. I went to her Success Plus conference and decided to coach with her afterwards because she was so down to earth, but also inspiring. And I was ready to give up. My business was just not going the way I had hoped. And she made such a difference. Such a difference. She needs to know that. I love her.
We will send her this episode. So fun. Okay. I had someone reach out to me and ask, Tracy, do you have an episode on organizing your office? And I thought to myself, kind of a lot of things relate to that, but not specifically. So I brought Lisa here to talk to us on the podcast about what to organize, how to organize in our office, what that looks like. And I want to start with just what not to organize, kind of the opposite of what people expect when it comes to office organization. There's things that we spend way too much time thinking we need to organize, and what actually do we need to spend our time on? So what comes up when I ask you that question, Lisa?
It's funny. The first thing I thought of when I saw that question was all of the Pinterest, Martha Stewart, home edit pictures that are absolutely beautiful. They're aspirational, and they make the office desks with not a piece of paper on.
No cards.
They're clean. And all the pens are color coordinated and everything it looks beautiful. That to me is lovely. And if it's aspirational for you and it makes you want to get organized, great. It is completely and totally unrealistic. However, for the average person, particularly in a home office, I work with a lot of, I think as you do, entrepreneurs, small business owners. I work with some folks in the corporate world as well. The office organization is important there, but because they're so exposed to the outside world when you work in a corporate setting, either in a cubicle or an open office, you can't be a disaster. But when you work from home, if you're a hybrid worker or you're an entrepreneur, things can get really out of hand really fast. But then I have people who give me a call and say, I have this picture I saw on Pinterest or in Pottery Barn magazine about the perfect office. That's what I want. And my first instinct is to say, okay, let's talk about how things work rather than how they look. I'm a big fan of function over form. And well, something may look beautiful and perfect and wonderful. It's probably not realistic. And it's probably not going to help you be any more productive than if you're in a sea of papers and dried out pens and old coffee cups. The way you work and the way you establish systems is far more important than how your space looks. So I would say the first thing of what not to do is stop worrying about appearances and start worrying about what's underneath and how is my space supporting the way I like to work and the way I need to work.
Oh, that's such a good question. How is my space supporting it? Yeah, in those pictures, the first thing I see is there's no drawers. Nobody ever has drawers in those pictures. I'm like, okay, where is all the stuff that they actually use? I mean, how are they functioning? And I want to be more minimal. And it's funny that right in this moment, I am thinking of a new behind my desk. I'm thinking of a new cabinet back there. And one of the things that was so interesting, I showed my daughter the cabinet and she said, it doesn't have a drawer in it, Mom. What are you going to do? Because this little cabinet thing I have has one drawer. That's all the space storage it has. And I was like, oh, gosh, good thinking, daughter, that you saw that it didn't have a drawer. So I'll have the drawer in my closet. But it was such a good thing to think about what your storage situations are. But let's go back then to more organizing isn't necessarily the answer. But your question, if we ask ourselves that question, then where do we go from there? The question was, what do you need to support you?
So I think you need, as far as for yourself, I think you need to be honest with yourself. And I think you need to have a little bit of self-awareness as to how you like to work, what your learning style is. There are some folks who want to have everything out of sight, and the visual clutter to them is so disturbing that they have to have a place for everything out of sight. And that's one way of working. There are other people who say, if it's not out and in front of my face, I'm not going to remember to do it. I'm not going to see it. And they're much more visually stimulated by things like that. So I think you need to think very hard about, how do I like to work? What stimulates my work juices the best? Is it being able to see what I have to do? Or is it, I'm a big fan of not using, for example, your piles of paper on the desktop to remind you to do things. Because the minute something goes on top of that other piece of paper, I'm going to leave this paper out so I can remember to do this. And then another piece of paper comes in and you say, oh, I need to remember to do this. I need this paper to remind me. And it goes on top of the other one. And guess what happens? The visual cue from that first piece of paper is now gone. You have no more visual cues. Only what's on top is giving you visual cues. So the way I suggest folks who really are like to see things is, don't stick it in a filing cabinet because you'll forget it. It's like the black hole of nothingness. Have systems that are maybe out on your desk, maybe a desktop file box to hold the most important stuff, and use some kind of task management system, whether it's a paper to-do list, whether it's a digital maybe it's notes on your phone, or maybe it's ClickUp or Notion or some digital reminder program. Get the task into that. And then the paper doesn't need to be the visual cue. because the task management tool that you're using is your visual cue. And then you can actually decide not just what I have to do, but when am I going to do it? So that's part of the big picture of that. So I think the first step is to decide, how do I like to work? What feeds my inspiration and will support my productivity the best? And then start from there.
Yeah, that's so good to be honest. I like when you started out with that. Just be honest with yourself.
Realistic. Yeah.
And not aspirational. I think that's versus being aspirational and think, I'm going to change how I work in order to look organized.
Exactly.
So, we're going to go off script here because right there comes up the first system that we need to put in place. We get stuff. And this is on desktop, and I just did this morning. I had something I had downloaded. It was on my desktop, and I was cleaning up my desktop because I've been working on a project. It got really messy. And this is desktop on my computer. But there was something in there that I wanted to remember to do, but it's not an urgent task. So where do I put it? And I'm like, I have to remind myself, what is my system? Like, where do I put that? And it could be as simple in what I do is I have a planning appointment on my calendar for the first of every month. Things that are aspirational that I want to do, like this was a testimonial page that she had a form made and then she put in her newsletter, leave me a testimony. And I thought that is genius. So people can be reminded to go to this form and leave you a testimony. And I want to set that up, but I don't have time right now to set it up. So I put it in February 1st appointment task. And then I will go through all the ideas in there and things that I want to do in there. Or I could do that on I also hold a planner on my desk that I write on and use. And I could put it in there in February. I often teach people just use a sticky note on the calendar for February. And when you get to February, then all those ideas you thought of will be there. What have you seen helping people is the kind of a few, maybe one or two or three basic systems that help people with this task problem?
So remembering what you have to do without necessarily having it in front of your face all the time.
Yes.
You're asking? Yeah, my first question is going to be to this person. Are you more of a digital person or are you more of a paper person?
Yes.
Because I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was a big push to go all digital.
Yeah.
Because if you weren't, especially if you were of a certain age, if you were doing all digital, you were considered a Luddite within the times, right? And what happens is I had several clients who said to me, I used to use my Franklin Covey planner or my Filofax, and it was my Bible. It was literally my life. And I never forgot anything. I wrote everything down. I had my calendar in there. I had my to-dos in there. I had everything I needed. And I always remembered what I had to do. And then I tried to switch to a digital system because my company wanted me to do it, or I got some negative comments from a client or a millennial child, whatever. And I decided, all right, I'm going to go all digital. And now I can't find anything. I can't remember anything. I'm not functioning as well. And my question back to them is always, so why not go back to what works?
Yes.
My favorite expression is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, that's the other thing, what not to organize. If you have a system that is working for you, don't mess with it, tweak it, add something to it, go in and figure out what's not working and don't throw out what is working.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I ask is, do you instinctively reach for a sticky note to write something down to remember? Or do you instinctively reach for your phone and type in there what it is you have to remember? That answer gives me a lot of information about how they like to function. Am I instinctively reaching to write something or type something? That, I think, is the first step to acknowledge the world is, I've noticed, as even with some of my Gen Z clients, they're going back to paper. They're going back to reading stuff in physical books, and they're going back to paper planners. I teach a few classes at some local universities, and I'm dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-olds who, when I say to them, how are you keeping track of what you have to do? And half of them hold up a paper planner. And I'm like, all right, you figured out what works for you. And the other half. And I think it is definitely a pendulum that has swung back. I think it's going to hang somewhere in the middle. And when you figure out how you like to remember things, that's the first step. So you obviously are using a digital system. You're putting it into your calendar digitally. I have some folks who, they may not have a paper calendar, but they have a paper planner, and they write it in their planner, and they categorize their planner according to what the task is. Is it personal? Is it business related? Is it something else? I have helped people set up digital systems and paper systems. My favorite trick is to ask people to categorize your tasks. Because if you get into one long, lengthy task list, and then you sit down and try and figure out, what do I do next? I have to eliminate these first. These are more important. So you need to categorize. You can categorize by what kind of task it is or what the priority of that task is. Some people like to organize by priority. This is the most important thing, whether it's a work thing or whether it's a personal thing. These are the priorities. So I think, again, it's being honest with yourself and being realistic and saying, what do I automatically go to do? And then feed that proclivity. Go into that, lean into that. This is how I like to do things. So let's work with that instinct that you have to do it that way before we try to completely change how you do everything.
That's so true. And I love how thinking organized is just knowing what you have and being able to find it when you need it. So when you walk into, like, visualize right now, walking into your office, knowing what you have to do and being able to find it, you're organized. And so you know your tasks. And then let's talk about what to do with the paper. I always like to think of things on my computer as just digital pieces of paper. So even things on the computer, but let's just talk physical filing or papers. What do you see as helpful when it comes to that?
So there are several things that come to mind with a paper filing system. The first thing that I suggest is to macro file rather than micro file. I can't tell you how many clients I've gone into and pulled out their file drawers and they have a file folder with one piece of paper in it. And they can't find anything because there's so much of it. So my suggestion is to macro file with hanging file folders with big categories first. Big categories like investments, insurance, car, home, whatever the various aspects of your business are. And then you can always subdivide. But if you are making a file folder for every single piece of paper you own, first of all, you're taking up way more space in that file drawer than you need to. And second of all, you're making more work for yourself.
This is a good example of where don't over-organize. Don't spend time organizing. The only thing you need is to be able to find it when you need it. Not make it so difficult and challenging and have to make new files every other day because you've gotten so specific. So I love this.
Exactly. And so that's the first step. But the second step when it comes to paper is we all tend to save too much stuff, right? Digitally, it's easier to save digitally because you can't see it. It doesn't make piles around your office. But paper-wise, if you have run out of room in your filing cabinets because you can't fit one more piece of paper in there, and it started to pile up, piling on top of the filing cabinet or in boxes on the floor, you've got to ask yourself some hard questions. And you've got to go into that file drawer. And I wouldn't suggest doing this for more than about a half an hour at a time because it's overwhelming. But pull a file out and ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, when was the last time I looked at this? Because studies have shown that 80% of what we file, we never look at again. So the first question is, when was the last time I looked at this? Was it when I stuck it in this file 2 years ago? And the second question is, if I let it go, can I find it somewhere else? Is it available online? Is this information available in another place? And the third question is, what would be the worst possible thing that would happen if I let this paper go? Would it be catastrophic? I guarantee you 99% of the time, letting a piece of paper go, unless it's a birth certificate or a paper that's very difficult or impossible to replace, you're going to be able to find it somewhere else. And allowing yourself to take up so much space, and it's not just the space you're taking up, it's the time you're wasting digging through all that stuff that you're saving for someday. And I ask my clients a lot, so when is someday? You stuck this paper in here 2 years ago. I might need it someday. So tell me exactly what the circumstance is under which you might need this paper someday. And most of the time, they can't think of it. Or they say, you know what? You're right. If I really need this information, I can Google it. Right?
Yeah. And I can pay $2 to the bank to get a statement or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Almost everything, particularly financial stuff, almost everything is available online.
Yeah.
And several years ago, regulations were passed even for investment companies that they have to keep. Used to be people had to keep all their investment statements because it was the only place the information was available. Now, financial planners and people like that are required to keep that information for you. It's going to be available for the most part. Some of the really old stuff, like I had a client who was trying to evaluate what her estate was worth, and she needed the cost basis for all the stocks that she had bought 30 years ago. Fortunately, she had all the paperwork for it. It took us 3 days to find it all, but her investment person said, okay, from now on, you don't have to keep this stuff.
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue.
I think that's important too, to talk to your accountant, because I think if I talk to my accountant and she says, Tracy, these are the exact things you need to keep.
Yeah.
I all of a sudden feel like I can let other stuff go.
Yes.
So talk to someone personally I have links on my website to different financial people that tell you what to keep. But I think talking to someone yourself is super helpful.
Someone who knows your circumstances.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about paper, broad files. So somewhere in your office or in your home, you have broad files for paper. Let's talk specifically about paper that you need to take action on. Like you had mentioned a desktop filing bin, or what else do people do with it to keep it organized, like around their desk and stuff they need to do?
Okay, so the first thing that I try to get people started on is to, again, I know I've mentioned this, not use the paper piles as the visual cues.
Okay.
Okay, your reminders, your visual cue to get something done is going to be in an organized to-do list somewhere, whether it is a digital one or a paper one. That's your cue, your calendar and your to-do list. Those are your cues. Okay, like you said, you're using your calendar to remind you to do this, rather than printing out a copy of that person's newsletter to say, leave me a testimonial, and leaving that paper on your desk, right?
That's my big thing. Stop printing.
Yeah.
Stop ripping. I did a blog post on this years ago. 3 things to stop doing so you don't have that paper. But you have to have somewhere in the moment to make you feel safe that you're going to be able to find it again. Just like I did. I experienced this exact same thing. So as long as you have something in place to do that, then you'll be able to feel like you cannot print something out. But then what do you do with it so you've added it to your to-do list or your calendar, your visual?
Exactly. So your first instinct when that paper comes in you need to habituate yourself to this. You would need to establish the habit of, I'm not going to put this down on my desk. I am going to pick up my phone or pick up my pen, do this in here. And then what to do with the paper after that, because then the paper becomes, I think David Allen in his book, Getting Things Done, coined this phrase, backup documentation, right? It's not the cue, but it is the documentation you may need for later to get that task done. So I suggest 2 things. I suggest, if you're a paper person, having a desktop file box. Looking at mine right now, this is not visual, so you won't be able to see it, but a desktop file box that holds hanging file folders that's maybe 8 to 10 inches deep. You don't want a big, giant banker's box kind of thing. You want it to be able to sit either on your desk or maybe on your kitchen counter if you're a stay-at-home mom and you've got your family stuff to keep organized. Wherever it is that the work is going to be accomplished, but it's going to be there at your fingertips so that you can grab it when that task comes up on your calendar or on your to-do list. Oh, where did I put that paper that I need to do this with? Oh, yeah, it's here in my desktop file
The
box.
one place. Only have one place.
One.
Yes.
And the file box, fill it with what I call action files, or sometimes it's just almost archival files, but they're only temporary. So action files would be bills to pay, that kind of thing. Anything you need to take an action on should have a category. And then some of those files are going to be things for information that you only need to hold temporarily. For example, if your kids are involved in a bunch of activities and you getting probably not anymore, a paper directory or a list of, if you're providing snacks on a certain day, a list of the requirements for that, something labeled with that kid's name or the kid's activity, that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of thing that when the season is over, you pull it out, you throw it away, you get a new one. So it's a constant culling. It's not a filing cabinet where you hold things that you need indefinitely. It is a temporary holding spot for all that paperwork that you need to later take an action on, but you need a place to hold it. And then I suggest that people have 2 paper trays, one for action, one for file. File is obvious. I don't need this paper now. I've done what I need to do, but I may need to save it for another time. Or it's my new insurance policy. I don't need to do anything about it. I just need to file it, save it for later. That file slot. The top tray is action. That's for the stuff that comes in that you don't have maybe 10 minutes to sit down and write everything down and get it filed. It sits in the action tray maybe for a day or 2. If your action tray is overflowing and you haven't looked at it in a couple of days or a week, then you're not staying on top. You've got to stay on top of stuff. It's a regular 10 minutes a day kind of thing. People think this is overwhelming. I don't have time to do all this.
Yeah.
And there may be some days when you don't have time. Okay, let's be real. You may be running from work to a kids thing, but the next day, 5 or 10 minutes to go through that action tray, write the task down, get it in your desktop file box.
Yes. Okay. So we have now, you've been honest with yourself. You see what you tend to do, digital or paper. You have a plan. I always think of it like a river. Paper flows in, and where is it going to flow out, and where is it going to stop temporarily? You have all of that done, and you have a file cabinet or a file drawer, something to put papers in with broad files. So paper's taken care of. Then I look around my office and I'm like, okay, what else do people want to know about having organized? What else do we need in our office? What are some of the things? I just think, okay, we have a printer and we have extra paper and ink. What do we do with that? And we have hole punches and extra binders and all the supplies. So what helps people organize their office when it comes to all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, all the physical clutter that can build up on your desktop.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about a physical desktop here, not a computer desktop. But a computer desktop can have clutter pile up too.
Oh, yes.
But as for a physical desktop, my advice is to only keep on your desktop what you reach for on a daily basis.
Oh, I love that.
What do you reach for on a daily basis? Or maybe every couple of days. But what are you reaching for? You're reaching probably for your laptop, right? Or you may have a desktop that doesn't move. You may be reaching for something to write with. So you need a container for pens, whatever.
One container.
One
right? Container.
Exactly. How many times, I can't tell you how many times I've had a client whose desk is piled. And then we go, okay, you need a pen to write this down with. And they can't find a pen. There are 500 pens in the pile, but 499 of them are dried out or broken and we're scrambling. So one container for things to write with. A lot of clients I know to have a pad of sticky notes on the top of their desk because they reach for them every day. That's cool. Whatever it is that you need, maybe
A
your
coaster. I'm
A
looking
coaster?
around at a coaster.
I actually got this really slick, cool. My sister at Christmas gave me, instead of a coaster, it's a little thing that heats up.
Is it the heated
That
one?
heats my coffee. It's so cool. I love it. And a rack, get a rack for your cell phone and prop it up there, or have a place where your cell phone lives, because that's probably something you reach for multiple times a day.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. You may have some binders with information, particularly if you're working in an office and a non-home office setting, that you reach for every day, then set them up on your desk. But other than that, if there's stuff on your desk that you don't need every single day, it doesn't belong there. Find another place to keep it. Drawers are the same way. That big top main drawer is only for stuff that you're going to reach for regularly, right? The desktop file box should be on your desk, because that's something theoretically that you're reaching for papers from every day. Everything else, the reams of paper that you bought in that giant case from Staples, or boxes and boxes of paper clips and pens and all that stuff, often gets stuffed in our desk drawers. And what you're doing is you're sucking up space for stuff that's way more important. You don't need to keep a box of 50 pens in your desk drawer. You need to keep maybe 4 pens on top of your desk. And then that box can go, if you're lucky enough to have a supply closet or some kind of off-desk storage.
Yes.
Some kind of off-desk storage. It's a little harder in a home office, I think, than it is in a corporate setting, because corporate offices have supply rooms, right? You can go get what you need when you need it. But as a small business owner or an entrepreneur, you may want to be taking advantage of Staples is having a sale on 500 reams of paper. Don't store that in your office. Empty out part of a closet or a cabinet like the one you're talking about behind you. That's the place for the extra supplies, the backup supplies.
Right.
Forget, Home Edit has expression for them, and I can't remember what they call it. But yeah, it's backup supplies, but you don't need to have them in your face every day.
Yeah, it's so good. I look around my desk. There's cords because I have the plugins in my backup little external hard drive sitting here. I have Post-it notes, usually just one, but because I'm adding people to Organized Life Academy, I have my little stack of different colors. But then I have my planner that I love that I write on. And what I do, and I used to always have a clipboard with a pad of paper on it, but right now I'm using the planner. But if I write something on a sticky note, I stick it to the planner, and the only place I ever have random notes is on that planner, and then I process my sticky notes after work, at the end of the day. Yeah. And then I have a little place to write wins. And so other than that's all I try to keep on my desk. But what's so interesting, I was thinking, like I've mentioned this before, that I love a certain pen. So I want to feel rich and elevated. I only use these pens. So right now I have 4 of the pens laying on my desk, and I have my container of pens that's chock full of pens that I don't go for. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to clean that out and have 4 pens and one, and that's it, versus having a stuffed full thing I don't even use.
And you know, let me just say,
Yeah.
have the stuff on your desk that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Those pens make you feel good. Whereas the stuffed container of the pens you never use, they may not make you feel bad, but they're not making you feel good, right?
Yes. Spoiled and elevated. That's my word.
Anything that's going to be not just useful, but, ooh, I like writing with this pen, so I'm going to keep 5 of these here. Cool.
And I got all different colors, so I'm so excited. Yeah. Okay, so we have our supply closet. We have maybe a cabinet behind you that has storage. That's another thing. Look for things to use in the office that have, I think, covered storage so that you have a place to put things that's useful. My standing desk, the one thing I wanted has this little, they didn't come with drawers. And so it has one little cup to the side of it that kind of hooks underneath it. And I'm like, okay, everything I look at now, I look at what am I going to need to put? I need some sort of storage for everything I get. Then what else coming into the office? Any other, I think of products maybe that you recommend a lot that help people organize their office. Is there anything you would recommend?
So one of the first things I notice a lot of times when I go into especially a home office is that people are not taking advantage of their vertical space. And as an organizer, I know you see this all the time. There's stuff piled up on the floor, but there's empty wall space. And I have a very small home office. But early on, when I first started to put this room together, I hired the Container Store to come put some alpha shelves. Now, you don't have to, you can do this yourself. And I have a whole wall full of shelves that goes up to the ceiling and boxes. And that's where my supplies live. It's extra paper, extra pens, extra whatever, because I don't have the luxury of having a storage closet, but I have 8-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
So I went all the way up and it's labeled. So I know what's in there. And occasionally I have to get up on a step ladder to get to the top one, but it's only the stuff. I don't have to get up on a step ladder every day. You do not want to make things difficult to get to if you're using them all the time. So when I need more paper for my printer, which is a regular basis, it's on the lower shelves.
Yeah.
But the 500 extra reams are way up on the top shelf. So use your vertical space, use shelving. If you can install it in the wall, great. If you can't, buy some really tall bookshelves. I think shelving and bins are probably the best solution. Label them. It doesn't matter if the inside of the bin is, it doesn't have to be perfectly organized on the inside, unless that's something that jars your preserves. If you really love that and you open up the bin and you want to see it all perfect, go for it, right? But most of the time, as long as it's in the bin and it's not just an assortment of random things, it is one category. This is stationery. And the box is labeled stationery. It's out of your way. It is remove the visual clutter and you can find it in 2 minutes when you need it. So vertical space and bins, shelving, that kind of stuff to me is the perfect solution for storing supplies that you don't need on your desk every day.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So I'm picturing this beautiful office with shelving, either it's in a closet or vertical shelves, bookshelves, anything that you have, and containers. And I remember helping this guy in his home office, and we just sorted. So if your office is a complete mess, you're going to go in and you're going to start sorting into categories. And then you go through the steps, you purge each category, and then you assign homes to them and contain them. Shop your house first. You guys know the steps, but that's what we did. We sorted. And so I remember his categories. We had an electronics box, and I got the navy blue kind of fabric photo box looking ones, different shapes. So there was paper size shapes and there were square ones and extra large ones. We had a bin of electronics. We had a bin of, I think he had sunglasses. And what's funny is I think he smoked once in a while. So we had a bin of smoke supplies, and then his paper and stationery, like you said, or postage. I love having one place where you have postage and letters and your stamps and your return address labels all in one bin. So you're going to go in and you're going to do your office. What else do you tell people when their office might be a mess, and how do they, any tips with getting started? And
oh, I know. And sometimes people, they walk in and there's an immediate overwhelm, right? Because there's just so much stuff, particularly if they're people that like paper. They're printing out stuff or they're saving paper. And there have been a couple of things that I found to be very helpful. The first thing is start with your physical desktop, because that's where 90% of your work happens, okay? And start with the space that you sit at, all right? If you have to move stacks of paper away just to see the monitor on your computer, that's probably the place you need to start. And paper sorting is tedious. It's not like sorting big stuff, right? It takes a long time to get through a stack of paper. So I suggest, with a few exceptions, which I'll mention in a minute, I suggest set a timer. Set a timer for 30 minutes or even 15 minutes. Some days you may not have 30 minutes. You may only have 15. Set a timer. Some people like to have music on because it helps numb the pain of having to do boring sorting. I like to sometimes have a TV on in the background. I'm not watching it, but the noise is, I think it probably helps that part of the brain that
Yeah.
is always going, oh, I hate this. And just set the timer and grab a pile and just make a resolution. I'm going to sort through this pile for 15 minutes. When the timer's done, I'm done. No guilt, right? If you do that every single day for several weeks, you're going to get through a lot of those piles. And I also suggest don't try to file everything right away. Get yourself a whole bunch of boxes or bins from around the house. You can get paper boxes from Amazon that your Amazon deliveries came in, or wine boxes, liquor boxes are great for sorting, and just throw a sticky on it that says whatever categories, electronic, financial, whatever, and sort into those boxes. Now, going to have to live with those boxes for a few weeks, but eventually you'll get through the piles. And then once you've decided what to keep and it's all sorted, then you can decide, where am I going to keep it? Because as Tracy, you already said this, until you know what you have and how much of it you have, you're not going to know where you're going to keep it. You have to figure the first two things out first before the where.
Yeah.
Now, the caveat to the 15 minutes a day thing, I work a lot with neurodivergent folks. Many of them have ADHD. I have a client who calls hyperfocus her superpower. Some folks with ADHD have that hyperfocus issue where they get locked into something and they lose track of time and they just focus on the one thing. And in some ways that can be a detriment to them if they have to switch from task to task and they have other things to get done. But she says, I use my hyperfocus as my superpower because when I have to go in and clean out my file drawer, for example, I will get her started and we will make decisions about what to let go and what to keep. And then she said, I'm going to have a hyperfocus day on Tuesday and I'm going to get through all the rest of these files. And even if it takes me all day, I'm going to get it done. Now that suits her learning style. Right? That hyperfocus for her in that instance is a good thing. So my answer to clients is always, what are your strengths? How do you like to do this kind of stuff? If you do have that ability to hyperfocus for long periods of time, then don't do 15 minutes. Do it for as long as you can stand it, right? Make sure that you're hydrated, make sure that you stop to eat, right? And make sure that there is nothing else on your calendar that you are going to forget about, or be late for.
Yeah.
Set all those things in place first. But for most people, it's too much. And so 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I have some clients who take one weekend day a month and get their office back in order if things have gotten chaotic in the time in between. So it's it's being realistic with yourself and being honest with yourself and being aware of what your strengths and what your weaknesses are before you set those parameters for yourself.
I love it. One of my clients a while back, she committed to doing 5 pieces of paper, sorting them every day.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because she had a plan. She set up her little boxes of categories like super important papers, action needed papers, whole, like you said, financial. She just set these different categories up and then she just sorted. And sometimes it turned into an hour and sometimes it was just 5 pieces of paper, but she literally changed her life from doing that. So be encouraged if you have a lot of paper.
Yeah.
So Lisa, unfortunately, we have to cut this off. So tell us, I know you have a fabulous Organize Your Office freebie that people can get. So where can they find you and how do they get that?
Okay, so I have written a book called The Ultimate Organized Office, 10 Steps to a More Efficient Workspace. It's a hunk of a PDF. It's about 75 pages long and it's 10 steps. And I break each step of organizing your office, of each category of what to do, electronic stuff, paper stuff, digital stuff. You can do the steps in any order you want, except that I suggest you do the first step first, which is to take a visual assessment of your office. Look around, figure out what the hot spots are, where the trouble is, and make a plan, at least a generic plan, a general plan for how to tackle it and what areas you want to tackle first. And then after that, you do the steps in any order that works for you. If you go to my website, it's griffithproductivity.com, or the shortcut is griffithps.com. On my homepage, you will see a button that you can click to download this PDF. You can print it out if you're a printing person.
Did you just tell someone to print it off?
I know. I'm hearing myself say that. Oh, don't do that. But you really like to be able to write on it. And that's okay.
Totally.
But you can download it. Now, you will be added to my newsletter mailing list. I only send a newsletter out once a month. You will not get spammed by me. I don't want to clutter up your email inbox any more than I want to clutter up anything else in your life.
Yeah.
So you will get, and there's a link to a blog where I write about all of the topics we talked about today: office organizing, productivity, time management, setting priorities, once a month. And sometimes there's information in there about a book that I think is helpful, or a product I have found that's terrific, or a product that I found that is a waste of money and time. I'm honest with you about that. So there's some informational stuff in there as well. And I'm going to tell people, I tell all the people when I speak in my workshops, if you sign up for this newsletter, you get your free book. And in a couple of months, you either haven't had time to read it, or you've read it and you think, this isn't significant to me. Unsubscribe. And I know business owners never tell you that. I'm telling you that because I do not want to add anything to your life that doesn't add value.
I love it. Lisa, this is so good. I feel so encouraged. And what is really good is that when you're walking into your office, it's not just organized, it's productively organized. You have your system of how paper flows. You have everything you need at your fingertips, and only that. And you're really productive in your work, because that's the whole goal of getting organized. So it can aid us and support us in the work that we want to do in the world. So thank you so much for being here, and go get her book. Yes. And we will see you around.
Thanks, Tracy.
Wait, if you're finding this podcast useful, you must check out the Organized Coach Academy. It's my course where I walk you through every step to get your business organized, to get yourself organized, to save money and time, to prepare to hire someone, to do all the things that you want to do in your business with ease. Check that out at simplysquaredaway.com/OCA. Also, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I would love it. It's my way of knowing that you're enjoying the podcast if you leave a written review. I have lots of freebies for you. They're linked in the show notes. You can find them in my bio on Instagram at Tracy Hoth. And until next week, have a beautiful day.